They threw 12,000 tons of orange peels in a forest. 16 years later, they returned to see the results. Daniel Jansen and Winnie Hallwakes had graduated from a reputed university and wished to focus their career on protecting the environment. An opportunity came knocking on the door when they made a deal with a fruit juice company to dump their waste on a conservation site. At first, it seemed bizarre and irresponsible, but 16 years later, when a team went to check the site, they were stunned. A conservation site is meant to protect the environment and all the living things that thrive inside it. However, when two ecologist men agreed to let a company dump their waste inside the area, many voices rose against it. But by that time, the fruit juice industry had already dumped 12,000 tons of orange peels and pulps. 16 years later, when a team of experts went to see the site, their jaws dropped. The idea that those two men had envisioned had unbelievably turned into reality. In 1995, an unusual story unfolded regarding the fruit juice firm Delora. The corporation had established a factory near a conservation area bordering Costa Rica and Nicaragua. At the same time, a conservation organization expressed interest in purchasing this area to protect it. Two ecologists employed by the business, Daniel Jansen and Winnie Hallwakes, suggested a strange but excellent idea that may benefit both the environment and the corporation. Their idea was simple but clever. Delora would be permitted to dump its organic waste, mainly orange peels and pulps, on a specified part of the conservation area in exchange for donating a portion of their land to the conservation group. Jansen and Hallwakes believed it was a win-win situation and were confident the company would accept the offer. However, the agreement came with a few conditions. First, only natural agricultural waste, such as orange peels and pulp, could be discarded, no chemical trash was permitted. Second, the corporation had to ensure that no toxic chemicals were applied to its crops. Third, the peels and pulp needed to be washed using limonene oil. Finally, waste could only be put in a designated area of the land. Interestingly, this land had previously been utilized for cattle grazing and had poor soil. Delora, a fruit juice firm, had no problem adopting the terms of the agreement, despite their initial concerns about the concept. As time passed, truck after truck arrived at the appointed location, unloading vast loads of agricultural debris. In total, around 12,000 tons of orange peels and pulp were dumped onto the land. But then, unexpectedly, the entire operation came to a halt. A competitor fruit juice firm noticed what Delora was doing and recognized an opportunity to acquire a competitive advantage. They began spreading allegations that Delora was harming the environment by dumping rubbish in a protected area. This competitor even initiated legal action against Delora and won the matter. As a result, Delora was ordered to halt its dumping operations, and the site remained undisturbed and forgotten for nearly 16 years. Years later, a group of researchers discovered the story and became interested in the experiment's results. They decided to go to the location to investigate if the concept given by ecologists Daniel Jansen and Winnie Hallwakes had worked. When the team arrived, they were stunned. The land once covered in orange waste had transformed into a lush forest. In fact, the forest had become so dense that the researchers struggled to recognize the area. While exploring, they spotted a yellow plastic strip tangled in some vines. That's when they realized they were standing in the exact spot where the waste had been dumped. The barren land had fully recovered, all thanks to the vision and efforts of Jansen and Hallwakes. The experiment proved to be a big success. Thanks to agricultural waste and the company's strict regulations, the parched and lifeless ground had converted into a lush forest. The soil quality had improved so significantly that new plant and animal species were discovered in the area. When questioned how this transformation occurred, the researchers conceded they had no obvious explanation. The method that brought about such a shift is yet unknown. During an interview, one researcher stated, "I strongly suspect that it was some synergy between suppression of the invasive grass and rejuvenation of heavily degraded soils. Ultimately, everyone benefited, the ecologists, the firm, and the environment." Even though dumping rubbish in a conservation area is typically not permitted, the two ecologists' deliberate approach resulted in a beneficial and environmentally friendly solution. People who have read or heard about the narrative frequently express their hope that similar tactics can be employed in the future to help and protect nature all throughout the world.